Hey guys, it's Marlene Leva, and today I'm going to be talking about to love and be loved. And the reason why I chose this topic was because I feel like it has a connection into the movie Freedom Riders. Now, first, I want to talk about why it's important to love. And it's very important to love because I feel that it's a crucial role and part of like your early stages. And when you show love, you're building this like community that you're connecting with one another, no matter their ethnic or racial group. And it just makes you want to be good to others and be optimistic. And this kind of emotion provides a equal balance of just the pleasure of giving and receiving, and this just generates like positive energy on both sides. Now you may say like, okay, like what happens, what can not receiving love do to a person? Now it has the effects of feelings and its consequences, and this connects to the Freedom Riders because in the movie, unfortunately, these kids, you know, they don't benefit any like social. They don't benefit a support system like any other kids in the school do. These are students who struggle with difficult family situations that affect their performance at school. Like they have missing, uncaring parents. They have parents who are in lifeline poverty, who are living in the streets. They have parents um, who domestically abuse them or any other forms of abusement. And these students, they feel like because they didn't receive that love, obviously they lack it. They lack the attention. They just run into conflicts later on, and they start to become like, there's this research that stated that it's revealed that these students become isolated, and because they become isolated, they just lose form of everything. Like one of the important parts is just they lose form of education, like especially when they're in schools, they just lose that knowledge for it, and they become part of a less advantaged social group in their adulthood and class. Excuse me. And then they also start to become psychological distress in adulthood. So these students, because they don't have this well-being, it's affecting their sense of self, of confidence, and their motivation to succeed. Now, the reason why is because these students, they feel like this misfortune that happened to them, they feel like it's the world against them, and they feel like they have to seek revenge. Because there's this quote stated by Eva, which is, I don't even know how this war started. It just two sides that tripped each other way back. Who cares about the history behind it? Which shows that these students are so unwilling to associate with each other because of the family situation where they came from. And they're not used to like getting along with other ethnic and racial groups. Like they're so used to running or shooting against them. And this intolerance comes from the hostile environments that they grew up in. And they feel like because this generated history that they came from, like they have to like continue it, and like they just don't want to get along with each other because of this lack of knowledge, and because they just ran, and like in their childhoods, like they just ran into conflicts. And they feel like the only form of love that they're getting is just like with the people they roll with. And that's why like later on, like um there's this dedicated teacher who's like put in a class of at-risk teenagers, and that are deemed and incapable of learning. And instead of giving up, she like inspires these students to take an interest in their education and plan their field. So she assigns them reading assignments and materials that are especially related to her life, because she starts noticing that as soon as like her first day started, she noticed that these kids were very incapable of wanting to be along with each other. So these kids like confined in their own group and their own people that they rode with. So it was just a three separation of Latinos, Asians, and blacks. So it was just like a broken puzzle that needed to be put together. So little by little, she started doing that. So she started noticing that through that, she started having connections of the Holocaust, because there was these students just like the only easy thing for them was just to go based off racial stereotypes, and that's their form of bullying, and they feel like they're gaining something out of that. And she starts to connect it with the Holocaust, and she says like she wants to build a classroom where she feels like they're included and they're loved. And with that Holocaust connection, those students starting to get together, and they started to become closer because they started to know that these innocent people were unfortunately put into a war because of who they were. And instead of them, they're making wars because they want to, because it's based off their history. Like, they feel like they have to keep on roll with that. So Miss Guru, she has the power of journaling. She gives these diaries for the students to, like, talk about their stories. And as soon as she reads them, she notices that these students are not different as they think, and it's, they're similar. Like, they have similar stories. Like, they come from, like, the same story. And she starts to notice that, and she tries to put these three, these three, the racial groups, like, put them in a puzzle, and she starts to connect them. And these students, like, of course it was difficult for them to give her respect, because she was white, and the students felt like she was just superior to these students. So little by little, because of this connection of the Holocaust and the connection of, like, their diaries, they started to become more of a family in a way. Like, a little, like, as much as they didn't want to accept it, they started noticing that she was very dedicated to them, and she started noticing that receiving this love gave them the ability to, like, show love to one another. And it was just a puzzle that was missing, and they brought them together. And the reason why I'm talking about to love and be loved is because this creates a positive interaction between these kids. And I think that it's very important in the African American community, because unfortunately there's students and there's kids that run up into conflicts in their early stages, and they just don't have that confidence, and they need someone there to show them love and to be loved, so that they will be able to generate that on both sides. And the Freedom Riders gave them the ability to be free, and to break that stereotype, and to know that, okay, like, we need to love one another, because that's the only way that we're gonna, it's not the only way, but it's a way for them to, like, connect. And, like, just because the race of them, or like the color of the skin, that, like, doesn't matter. It's just like they all come from a similar background, and which is the reason why I think this had, like, a great connection with Freedom Riders, because there were kids who come from different racial and ethnic backgrounds, and all they needed was someone to show them love for them, so that they can feel love, and to show love to, like, their community, and just to break that stereotype. Thank you.